Welcome back to the Barca Breakdown. My name is Adam. I'm here with Yus.
What's up, guys? Smash that subscribe button because we got a lot of new faces here. We're going to be making a lot more videos for you guys. Please
and
smash.
Yus, we got some hot topics today, okay?
Let's go.
I know we've all just been pumped about the games, and we've had, fewer and fewer intra-week videos, especially because we're not in the Champions League. But listen, we got Haaland, we got Pablo Torre, we got Ronald Koeman coming back and spitting some venom at Laporta, and then we got to talk about, Traore, as well as some other interests from the club. And so we got a whole bunch of topics. So smash that sub button, because let's get into it, Yus, because the rumors this week have been really hot that Haaland is going to come to Barca, right? There have been reports of a secret meeting in which Xavi met with Haaland in Monaco, although I think Alemany kind of said that might not have happened because he was in London. But regardless, we're starting to get a little bit more of an insight into the contract negotiations, and it looks like Barca are willing to offer a contract for 5 seasons worth 190 million euros gross, right? And they're looking at paying Haaland 20 million the first year, 30 the second, 40 the third, and then 55 in the fourth and fifth years. And so the war chest is open, right? It does definitely seem like Laporta really wants to get Haaland to be the big, huge signing of his reign, a second reign as president of Barca, right? Because we remember his first time around, he signed Ronaldinho, and that really did kind of set the stage for Barca emerging as like the world's biggest club for the last decade. Right, and so I feel like he thinks Haaland will be the second one. And before you go, one last thing. There is a huge element here, which is that it seems like a foregone conclusion that Kylian Mbappe is going to Real Madrid this summer. So we need to not only steal Haaland away from a defensive standpoint, but also he is supposed to be the next big thing, right? He's already shown his scoring prowess. His Champions League record for Dortmund is incredible. His goal scoring is off the charts.
Yeah,
so what do you think, Yus?
It's just a really big ask to really go for right now, right? Because we have so many problems with money. We still do. I know Laporta has fixed a few things. We're slowly getting back to things. But 190 million euros is a lot of money, and we're supposed to do this in, next year or so? This is... We're in trouble.
I mean, really in 3 months.
Okay.
Right? 3 months is when it would happen.
So, we talked about in the past the CVC deal, which Barcelona passed on. And that would have been a
huge...
But
we're coming back.
Yeah,
right?
that would have been a huge injection of money. And we could have done that. But we're slowly maybe trickling back to getting that deal renegotiated and set back in so we can get that money available. But go ahead.
Well, in my opinion, I actually think Haaland is... I'm not too worried about him making a big signing, right? Because you have to look at what Laporta has done so far with Umtiti. You have to look at how he's not giving Sergio Roberto the wages he wants. You have to look at how he's been able to cut some various payments. He's gotten Traore. He's gotten Aubameyang, Dani Alves on cheap. And so I do think Laporta, in contrast to Bartomeu, is already showing an ability to run the club without as much money as Bartomeu did. So even though this signing seems a little bit in the Bartomeu vein, I don't think, given the context of what Laporta's done so far, you can call it that. And I do think Haaland, when he's healthy, is just a world beater. I think he would fit in with our team better than Mbappe. Not saying one is better or worse, but I just think that natural striker who's able to put in goals is clearly what this team needs. And, there's still some uncertainty about Dembele, about Traore, which we'll talk about later, about how Ferran Torres fits. We have Ilias and Abde coming through the youth team, and what we really miss is that clinical striker. So I do think he offers the profile that if we're going to go for a big signing, that is probably it. But what must be said is that Haaland has been injured, right? This season, I think he's played 20 games for Dortmund, and he's missed 16, which is a pretty big amount of injuries. And I know we already have, right, a little bit of that PTSD from signing Dembele from Dortmund and his injury issues. So those are kind of my thoughts. How does that make you feel?
No, they're very good points. And I didn't want to paint the picture like Laporta was doing making mistakes like Bartomeu was. I'm just saying it is a big ask, and you're totally right? Having that many missed games, especially after Dembele missed so many games, and we were talking about how Neymar used to be injured a lot in our previous podcast, YouTube channel, or YouTube videos. So it is a thing that Barcelona have been affected by, and we want to be careful of. But you're totally right. We need a striker that's scoring goals, and I know some of the players we have now, like Ferran Torres, is not doing that. We have Traore doing a lot of our work. Dembele just finally scored a first goal. Yeah, exactly.
Like, we're celebrating Luc de Jong for scoring like 5 goals this season. That's really not what Barca need to compete, because with Sevilla losing points today to Alaves, we're in striking distance to get second this season. But if we're going to really make that step and go above Real Madrid, a Real Madrid team that's going to have Kylian Mbappe next year, we need a certified goal scorer. And Haaland is clearly the biggest target on the transfer market that can do that. And you were kind of talking about how we have a lot of talent up front. We also have a lot of talent in the midfield, which as we segue into the Pablo Torre news, right? The new player, it was announced today, Barca have signed from Racing, right? I think a Segunda team in the Spanish league for 5 million euros, and it's possibly going up to 20 million euros. This Pablo Torre deal is getting a lot of comparisons to Pedri's deal, right? Where Pedri came from Las Palmas on a very cheap fee and has the sky's the limit with Pedri, and we just glow about him every time we talk about him. Pablo Torre is getting that type of hype too, and I think one interesting nugget here is that Real Madrid were going for him too, and we won that battle to get Pablo Torre. What makes me a little bit confused, like I was mentioning, is we have Xavi, we have Pedri, we have Nico, we have Frankie de Jong, we have Busquets, we got Ricky Puig swimming somewhere up the stream, right? And then there's news that Barca are trying to get, I think, Kessie from AC Milan this summer, who's also a midfielder. And so I don't know. I mean, how do you feel? How do you balance the fact that it looks like we got a really good talent who a lot of people are very excited about with the fact that we already have a kind of a dearth of midfielders that are really good and young?
Well, I totally think that we don't need to focus all our attention on getting a lot more midfielders because, like you said, we do have a lot of young players that are going to be here for a while. At least I think so, And so I think that we need to, if we sign him, he's going to be kind of someone that's going to not slot in for Busquets, but when Busquets leaves, we have another midfielder to cover that spot. I don't think Ricky Puig is going to say. So I think it'll still leave us with not too crazy of a midfield, and he'll still be able to find a spot with Pedri, Gavi, Nico, FDJ, and anybody else at that time. But I think we need to focus a little more of our attention, a little more of our money on maybe a left back because we still have that Jordi Alba situation, and Dest did play in that left back position that did look good, but then we have the right back situation that we have to deal with. So I don't think we should focus a lot of our money and attention on the midfield, but if it works out for us in the end and we don't have those right left back options, I don't think it's a terrible thing. It's not too crazy of a price. We seem to have some money to work with this season after so many of the things that you mentioned that Laporta has done. So I don't know. I'm kind of wish-washy on it. What do you think?
In terms of my end, the one thing I'd clarify is I don't think Pablo Torre is like a CDM. I don't think he's going to come in for Busquets necessarily.
Yeah.
But I guess he adds more talent there. And, I think we can talk, walk and chew gum at the same time, right, as the saying goes, because sure, we got another talent, but talents don't always turn out like Pedri, right? And so sometimes you have to take the cheap bet that has a potentially high upside and potentially really low downside. And, we'll take that gamble and we'll hope it pays out well. And we hope that the fact that Real Madrid is interested by the fact that, to be honest, Houston, I haven't seen him in actual gameplay too often, but the fact that he's highly lauded as a good potential there. And even though the club is Haaland obsessed and we clearly got Pablo Torre, right, we're also talking about Gaia, right, as that possible left back replacement. We're talking about Christensen. We're talking about Azpilicueta from Chelsea. And so there is, at the same time that these, Kessie and Pablo Torre and Haaland are going on, there is certainly a lot of talk about how the Barca board, Laporta and Alemany are looking for defenders. So I feel like this is a bet worth taking. And I think as we talk about defenders, right, and how we need them, let's turn back to one of the greatest Barca defenders of all time, the legend himself, Ronald Koeman, because Koeman use came out this week and threw a little bit of shade, not a little bit, man, a lot of bit of shade at Laporta, right? Some of the quotes he said were, Laporta told me 1,000 times that Xavi would not be his coach because he lacked experience. He said that every coach needs time and patience from the board. I was working with many injured. Now Pedri is back in shape and Ousmane Dembele. You can see everything. He said it was at the insistence of the club management that I agreed to the departure of some players to put the finances in order, but then you see that they signed someone for $55 million euros shortly after letting Lionel Mesi go. He said, I was not Laporta's coach. I had that feeling from the first moment. After the elections, there was no click. The necessary support from above was lacking. So you laid on us, man. I mean, how do you feel about Koeman speaking? Because I want to hear. And I remember at the time, we weren't, there was a time when we were all enamored by Ronald Koeman, and we thought he could do really well, right? We're actually just a few days after the year anniversary of when we came back against Sevilla. We scored 3 goals. Piqué scored that goal at the end of extra time in the Copa del Rey last March. That had us all thinking, wow, Koeman could do it. Of course, we come back from international break last season, and we lose the league. We only win the Copa del Rey. But how do you feel? Was Koeman given like a short end of the stick? Was he not given enough credit? Or is it all his fault that he didn't keep the job? Where do you stand?
I think he had a lot of opportunities to show what he could have done on the pitch strategically. He had the best player in the universe, Lionel Mesi, in his arsenal. He had Luis Suarez at times. But look, the guy didn't do a good job. He didn't win trophies when we could have won trophies. He made mistakes at the end of that season.
He won one.
Enough trophies, sorry. He made too many mistakes, right? We had multiple opportunities to take points, take the lead, and every time in big games he failed. And that is, in my opinion, the worst thing that we can do. He also had a very bad trend of not improving, right? We complained time and time again. I think Xavi has already showed more improvement than Koeman has showed at all over his 1.5-year tenure. And then on top of that, if you're talking about, the money situation and the confidence situation, Laporta's going to do what's best for the club as far as I understand it. Obviously, he had to let go Mesi, and I think that was in the hopes of securing Barca's future, even though I don't totally agree with it. I also think, Laporta kind of made his intentions clear to Koeman because he was pretty wish-washy with him. Remember, the news outlets came out so many times saying, like, if you don't win the
games, more games.
Exactly. So I think maybe Koeman read the signs wrong.
For me, a few things, right? One, like, of course, Koeman's salty. I mean, I don't necessarily blame the guy for coming out. Like, Laporta handled that situation poorly. There was a period before the winter transfer window when you and I were very, negative about Laporta, right? We thought he promised Emerson Royal he was going to stay, and he sold him. That turned out to be really good because Emerson has been very bad for Tottenham. He also promised that we would keep Messi, right? That they hugged at that speech when he won the presidency. He said, Messi, I love you. And then, like Koeman is saying, right, we sold Messi, and then we magically came up with $55 million to sign Torres. But I think the important thing that we got to talk about is that the reason Koeman was sacked is because he never took responsibility. Right, that was the issue. Like, it might be true that Pedri and Ousmane Dembele were hurt. There were often times at the beginning of the season where we would say, hey, we have to give Koeman some time. A lot of players are hurt. He did deal with a lot of that, but the main issue was he just never took responsibility. And as a coach, you have to be the first guy to do that. Right, because he's the one leading them. He's the one giving them instructions.
Sure.
And a lot of times when that season ended, it just felt like a lot of headless chickens running around with no camaraderie, no strategy. That Rayo game where Memphis missed the penalty that ultimately ended Koeman's tenure, it was just a showcase of how bad things had gotten near the end there. And I think the team really ends up rotting when the leader, the coach, isn't able to take responsibility and tell everyone that he's going to fix things. And that's kind of why he left. And so, I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's probably not worth our breath to think about the past, especially when the Xavi era has been so good, right?
Sure.
There's no doubting that. And I think as we talk about Koeman, no signings, Xavi, the last thing we want to talk about was Adama Traore. And I know it's early, but there is a lot of news in the press about whether or not Barca are going to sign him on or not, right? Because he's only on loan right now. I think the rule is we're going to pay $30 million for him, but we'll pay if we want to sign him permanently once the summer starts. But if the Wolves don't sign Tricao, then his number goes down to $24 million. So what's your last thought quickly here, Yus, about whether or not we should keep Traore?
He's really good. I really enjoy his play. In 150 games, he had 11 goals and 18 assists. We definitely need that on our squad, but the price tag's a little high, $30 million he is 26 years old. Depends how long that contract would be. If we don't keep Dembele, I think it's a good idea. If we can get the money together and sign him. He does a great job on the right side, a lot of assisting, a lot of gameplay. He's very physical. I know Barca need physicality right now. If the cards fall in that Dembele doesn't get signed, if we can scrounge up the money, I think it's a good idea. What about you?
I think I agree with generally what you said in terms of if Dembele doesn't re-sign, we need a winger with the characteristics of Traore. Oftentimes this season we have seen Traore and Dembele start or get subbed for each other, and that's because they have a very similar profile. Though Dembele is clearly better, in my opinion, Traore is a very serviceable person. And if we got Haaland up front with Traore and Ferran Torres on the wings, I think we would do really good.
Yep.
So let's see, because we have a big game coming up this weekend. Like I mentioned earlier, Sevilla have dropped points, and so we have a chance to, fight up there for number 2. So with that, guys, please hit the subscribe button. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We will see you after the game on Sunday. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.